Hello, everyone, and welcome to Painless Universal Conversation with myself and Welsh. Today's topic is truly inspirational. I'm so glad my guest today decided to join us. He's Steve Holbrook. He's a motivational speaker, successful entrepreneur from Calgary, Canada. His motto is get up, dust up, and move forward. You know why he has this very unique motto is because he, at the tender age of 2, was diagnosed with Crohn's disease, which is an inflammatory bowel disease. That didn't stop him. It didn't keep him down. He decided to utilize his skills and keep doing the best to leave a great legacy and footprint in the world. His focus is to help you gain confidence and realize the dream of making it to the top of your respective field. I'm so excited. He's here to join us to talk about his challenges he's had to overcome and how he's found his joy along the way. Meet my guest, Steve Holbrook. Well, hello again, everyone, and welcome to Painless Universal Conversation with myself and Welsh. I have the amazing Steve Holbrook, all from Calgary, Canada. And he'll be telling us about his own journey of inspiration, journey of aspiration as well. Something that says that you can do it no matter what life throws at you. Steve, thank you so much for joining me. How are you?
I'm great, Anne. Thanks for having me. We finally got to connect.
Oh, yes, we finally did it. It took a while. I think, we're having this conversation with everyone around the world, and people not realizing it's actually quite difficult to sometimes connect because timing schedules. I always used to think, okay, now we're doing Zoom, it's much easier, but people do have schedules and people are busy. So we finally got there, and I'm so happy to connect with you. How are you today? How's Canada?
I'm doing great. Doing great. Over here in Canada, it's a heat wave, so I'm feeling good today.
No, we're not there yet with the heat wave, but it's still quite rainy. And I'm like, well, if we get to proper summer, I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, your life is one of truly inspirational. In my intro, I talked about everything what you've done, and what people fail to realize is what challenges you had to overcome growing up, and you don't really talk so much about it because I think it's it's an important topic, but not something you need to always highlight all the time. Before we go into all of that, can you just tell me a little bit about who are you?
Yeah, I'd love to. So my name is Steve Holbrook. I'm from Calgary, Alberta, Canada. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm married. I have 3 amazing children. I have a business that I've been running for 16 years, and I'm a Crohn's and colitis survivor. I've had Crohn's colitis since I was 2 years old. I've battled with it my entire life, but as you would know, it's my illness does not define me. It's made me who I am today. So I'm a family man, I'm an entrepreneur. I like to keep fit. And most importantly, I like to work on my mindset because, there's been a lot of opportunities to crumble and quit and fall back, but it's the mindset for me that's kept me going along the way.
You said you were diagnosed with Crohn's disease at the age of 2, and this meant trouble for you, starting out. When did you realize that you, as a child and growing up, when did you realize you had this then, and that this is something that would make your life a little bit different from the normal kid?
Yeah, it's a great question. When I was young, my mom knew I was sick from an early age. At 2, I stopped walking because my joints were so swollen that I couldn't walk. My bowel movements weren't normal. But I do remember specifically, I was 6 years old and my mom brought me over to my grandparents' house and we had a dinner on Friday night. And it was just a weird kind of get together celebration feeling. Something was off. And we had dinner on Friday night. And as a family, I remember I was 6. And after dinner, we had Chinese food dinner. After dinner, my mom said, "Okay, Steven, it's time to go to the hospital." And I said, "What do you mean?" She says, "We need to go to the hospital and we need to figure out once and for all, what's going on with you." And I got checked into the hospital that night. And ever since then, it's been hospital visits and tests. And I knew I knew at that point that I was different. You know, I wasn't growing at the speed that my friends were growing. I was, you know, I looked younger from that point on my entire life, which was it's a good thing when you're older, but you know, when you're rolling into grade 10 and you know, you look like you're, you know, 11 years old, it can be challenging. So I just knew that for me, my life was going to be different, and that I was going to have to pay a different price. But to everybody has a price they were going to have to pay. So I knew it early on, and I was going to have a different journey.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's the same with myself. When I found really about my sickle cell anemia, I realized that
Mhm.
I think the same like you. I was in school. I was always young looking. I never, I think hit puberty early. There's just so much challenges I faced, and it was difficult. It was challenging. In your case, how did you deal with the severity of the illness? What did you do when it was getting worse and you couldn't deal with it on a daily basis? How did you deal with that?
Yeah, you know, as a kid, it's funny. As we're kids, we're so resilient, right? As when you're a child and you're in the hospital, some days it was as simple as focusing on the next popsicle, right? Or the next little container of ice cream, or the next games night when the Nintendo would come in, you play Duck Hunt on the little tiny screen. Little things to look forward to as a kid. And as I got older and started to mature and started to take on the, you know, the problems of the world and feel that weight on my shoulders, I just always focused on the domino approach. I always just focus on getting through the
Mm,
next procedure, the next operation, the next, you know, the next medication. And I knew that if I could get through the next procedure, the next medication, that eventually, you know, long term, I was going to be able to get myself out of that rut. So a lot of had a forward mindset. I was always able to look forward. And I think where that came from, man, is that because I was sick early on, I spent a lot of time in the hospital. I talk about this on my podcast. You know, I'd go to the hospital and there'd be games night, and I'd be there with Crohn's disease, and I'd be the child that was able to get discharged over time. But there'd be a lot of kids that never made it out. There would be a lot of kids I'd be playing cards with that had stage 4 cancer, and it was like, well, where's Timmy? Well, Timmy's no longer here. Timmy had cancer. You know, you have Crohn's. He had cancer. So I think by being around kids that were sick a lot, I think it also allowed me to be grateful for the fact that I only had Crohn's disease, and it was just severe enough where I could learn a lot about myself, but it wasn't severe enough where I was going to pass away.
all right.
That really impacted me.
But Steve, and I forgot to ask you because some people might be watching this and ask, they'll be wondering, what is Crohn's disease and how does it impact your life, daily life?
Yeah, it's a good question. So Crohn's is an autoimmune disease, and it can affect you anywhere from your rectum all the way to your mouth and your eyes. Basically, your body produces too many white blood cells. So what happens is that it attacks the good bacteria, and it can eat away at the lining on your intestines, and it creates ulcers and it creates inflammation. So the medication for Crohn's disease is basically white blood cell blockers. So by reducing the white blood cell count, it regulates your body, but when you reduce your white blood cell, it also opens up to infection. So patients that are on Crohn's medication are prone to getting sick, other diseases, whether it's COVID or the common cold or ammonia.
Mhm.
And the danger of that is that when you do get sick with Crohn's, your immune system is already low. And that's really, people don't typically just pass away from Crohn's. They pass away from, you know,
Oh, wow.
issues related to Crohn's.
Oh, well, that's a good explanation. I never saw it that way. I just assumed it was nothing to do with the intestine, but I didn't know anything else about it. So I'm so glad you took the time out for anyone
Thank you.
who's struggling, who's going through a difficult time, not knowing, or
Yeah.
who has a son and daughter and not knowing what to do next and if there's hope. Despite your challenges with the illness, you were able to go graduate at University of Alberta. You went on to, keep motivating yourself. What led you? What gave you that hope, inspiration to say, look, I know I have this. I'm not stopping here. I'm going ahead to go to university to keep studying. What gave you that inspiration to do it?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. So after high school, I knew that look, I could be a victim of my disease, I could be a victim of the system, I could just plug myself in and collect disability and
Mm,
tap her cool, or I could really use this and as a story to inspire other people.
yes.
And I had this mindset of we're all filming the motion picture of our life. One day my kids are going to look back 20, 30, 40, 50 years, and they're going to watch the movie of my life, my friends, my family, my future grandkids when I've passed away. And we're all filming our movie, right? And I just decided that the movie that I wanted my family to watch was going to be a movie of, inspiration and pushing through and making things happen. And I'm just so aware of, just all the people watching that I care about. Yeah, I want to prove people wrong, but I want to prove people right. Now, this message is for everybody watching and listening that feels like they're at rock bottom and they're struggling. And listen, by you getting over your challenges, by you having your breakthrough, you're going to inspire even one person.
Yes.
To go and do the same. And for me, I'm just always so aware of that. If I can just be the example, then when I'm long gone, there's going to be somebody who looks back and goes, man, if he can do it, I can too.
Absolutely. And it's so true, because every time I look at my life, when I look at someone else, I look at someone and say, oh my goodness, look at him, he's getting up, he's doing it, and he has an illness, and he's doing this. He just got through a divorce, he's lost his job, but he is still getting up and doing this. So I think that inspires people. I think listening to your story as well, you inspire so many people when they think about, look, he's not taking the pity road and just making it easier for himself, because then you went on to the insurance business and you could have taken the easier part and say, the traditional route, which everyone goes into. But no, you did not want to just be this traditional. You're like, okay, I've got this chronic disease, but I'm not letting this thing define me. I'm going on that route that I feel best suits me. Why did you decide not going to the traditional route, but going to something that you really wanted to do?
Yeah, when I graduated from university, and I had two options. I had worked at a local restaurant for 8 or 9 years at that time, and I had the option to keep climbing up and be the manager of that store and earn 6 figures doing that. And I also had an opportunity to go into the family business. I would have been the third generation, oldest son. My parents had continued on a very successful family business. They built hospitals, schools, high rises. It was a masonry company, and it would have been, fairly simple to transition into that business. But just in true fashion, I was looking for my mountain to climb.
Yes.
I was looking for my mountain to climb. And you know what the thing about me is, Anne, is I was never chasing money or, any one thing. I was always chasing a feeling. And the feeling that I was after, I wanted to feel significant. I wanted to feel accomplished. I wanted to feel like I was climbing my mountain, and something that I could be passionate about, that I built from the ground up. I wasn't looking for easy. I was looking for possible. And I was looking for a mountain that was possible to climb. And I was looking for the great challenge of my life. So when I got introduced to, the financial business, I thought, man, if I could dedicate the rest of my life teaching other people about financial education, of course I'm going to be wealthy. Of course I'm going to be taken care of. But my focus is on serving other people. And that was a mountain I wanted to climb.
Your health impacted your business when you first started. You said you took a setback from your business because your health impacted it in a massive way. And I think anyone who has a health problem will understand, because I've had that problem as well. When I started my business the first time, my health, I didn't understand the pressure of starting a business, being a business owner, and also dealing with health challenges. So I had to close that business immediately because my health just couldn't do it. It also, when I read your story that your health had an impact on your business, what happened, and how did you manage to overcome that challenge that the health put on the business?
Yeah, thank God I had built some leaders in my company prior to me being sick. So one of the things that attracted me to this industry at 23 was that I knew that if I built this business while I was healthy, it's a residual paying business. I could recruit and train a team so that if and when I got sick, I could step back. And I had that vision. And at the end of my 4th year, I got so sick on January 4th, 2009. I had to have my rectum taken out, my colon taken out. And that entire year, I ended up having 8 feet of bowel, and I got out of the hospital November 30th. So I was literally out for that whole year. I had a handful of leaders in my business that I had built when I was healthy. The business sustained itself enough. And then when I got out of that hospital and I was given a second chance, I just I mean, I've been so focused ever since, because now I have 3 kids. My oldest son has Crohn's, and worse than I do. And he was diagnosed at 2. And again, the cycle continues. And although my health is in surgical remission, he battles all the time with his Crohn's disease. So it's not me in the hospital, it's him in the hospital. So now, because of this business, I'm able to take time with him. And that's why I did it. I'm an entrepreneur for myself and now for my family.
Is Crohn's, is it genetical? Is it something, because you just said your son has it. Is it something that's genetical? How does it go on from father to son?
Yeah, it is genetical. It passes down more from male to male than male to female.
Oh,
Um,
oh wow.
but yeah, it's definitely, there's genetics. I don't have anybody in my family that was diagnosed with it, but I have 1 son and 2 girls, and my son has my disease and was diagnosed at 2.
He's just like daddy.
Just like daddy. Yeah.
He's a special boy because he knows daddy will look after him. You have the toolbox to really look after
Yeah.
him and make it much better for him. So I think that's not a bad thing.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So, there's sometimes you always go to the right person who will be your guidance. And that brings me on to mentors. You've always emphasized, even in your podcast, you talk a lot about having the right mentors because they would lift you up. They would tell you, you will see
Yeah.
that you learn from their mistakes. They tell you. How has having great mentors impacted your life?
Oh, it's having mentorship has been everything for me. And I think, if you're listening to this audio right now, watching this video right now, you need to go seek out mentors. Mentors aren't going to seek you out.
Mhm.
You need to find people, and you need to get in their back pocket. The squeaky wheel always gets the grease. So what I did, Anne, is first I got a vision of what I wanted my life to look like. And then I started to seek mentors out that are further down that path, the path that I wanted to go down. And I just knew that I know they've all made the mistakes. They've all stepped on the landmines along the way. So I can condense timeframes by really asking them good questions and making sure that I learn from their mistakes. I mean, if you have 2 or 3 great mentors and they each have 20 years experience, you can leverage 60, 80 years experience so that you don't have to make the same mistakes they did. And I was just in a hurry to live my life with purpose, on purpose. And I knew that by getting the right mentorship, that was going to help me, point me in the right direction.
Yeah, it's exactly like what you just said. Actually, that is, if I was younger and I had this listen to you, I would actually know how to manage my illness and how to build a business at the same time. You
Mhm.
said something very crucial. It's all about getting the right team, making sure things are in order. Even if you have a chronic illness, don't just build the business for building the business, but make sure you have teams. So if something happens to you, the business could still go on, and that's such an important thing, which I'm
Right.
you shared, Stephen, because so many people with chronic illness tend to focus on one thing and they forget the others. So I'm glad you said, you mentioned,
Yeah.
and that's something mentors do. Mentors will tell you because they learn from what their own experience of something
Yeah.
happens to them. But one thing
Yeah.
I read in your story, it says you have the you said your story is an example of power of preservers and how far a person can go if they do not quit and find their confidence. What advice would you give to others who might want to quit, Steve, and don't have the confidence to keep going?
Oh, wow. And that's a great question.
Yeah, it's
Listen,
true though.
it's all about perseverance.
Mhm.
If you're listening to this right now and you feel like you're at rock bottom and you're in a really dark place and you feel like there's no way out, you just need to know, look, it's okay. It's okay to be stuck, but it's not okay to stay stuck.
Mm.
Every single person listening to this right now, you have the ability to get unstuck. You just need to take the first step. There was times I remember writing a journal entry in the middle of 2009, and it's in one of my YouTube videos. And at the end of it, I wrote, I need to find the light at the end of the tunnel. And then the next line was, I need to find the tunnel first. I felt so lost. It felt so dark. I felt so alone. But you just need to know, like, the only way you fail is if you quit. And you just really need to take that first step. You just really need to just figure out what that next step is and just take it day by day. You know, it's okay to want to quit. It's just not okay to quit. You just have to find a way. And if you're not willing to fight for yourself, then just fight to be the example. Fight to be the example in the world. See, this world needs more people that want to be the example. Everybody has an opinion. Everybody thinks that they want to tell you what their solution is. How about more of us focus on just being the example to somebody else? And I just, even when I wanted to quit on myself, because a lot of days I did, I just knew that there was going to be somebody watching that I could inspire. And yeah, if you're dark right now, you just have to find a way to take the next step.
I read an article, a quote from Tyler Perry, where he said, "Nobody cares. If you complain you're broke, if you complain about this, no one really cares." And I also saw a video about which you did, and that video talked about nobody cares about your problem. And in this instant, people might think, what do you mean no one cares about your problem? But I think what you're saying there is very powerful. And what you and Tyler Perry were trying to say is very powerful, is that it almost like that self-pity on yourself, where people trying to feel pity. Oh my goodness, this is happening to me. Could you explain in that video why which you kindly shared on your Instagram? And I loved it. I've been replaying it over and over again because and I've sent it to a couple of people. I said, look, watch this thing, because really, sitting here feeling pitying yourself, no one cares. It's up to you. The onus is on you. I don't know how you feel about that statement which you made, and I love it.
Yeah, no, I love that. Look, at the end of the day, everybody has their own problems. Everybody's dealing with something. There's physical pain, there's emotional pain. Everybody's going through pain. Everybody's going through change. Everyone's being challenged. And you can be with me in the moment. Like right now, we're with each other in this podcast, and we can even empathize with each other, and we can get right down and be like, oh, you know what? That's unfortunate that happened. How do you overcome it? But the second that whoever's listening to this, the second that you turn this audio off, guess what? You're worried about your problem and your relationship and your finances and your pain and your illness and your stress, and you're not thinking about me anymore. So for me to go around thinking that everybody's going to be so concerned about me, everybody's got their own problems. I told this to my team, and I tell this all the time. I say, look, if we all took our own problem and we put it in a basket and we shook up that basket and we drew a new problem, everybody would want their own problem back. It's like, where's my old problem? I want my own problem, because it's like we have our own problem, and we're learning to deal with it. I don't want to deal with your problems. You don't want to deal with my problems. So let's just face it. Everybody's got their own issues. People care, but they don't care, because we're all living our own life.
It's true. I love that basket quote. It is true. If we put everyone's problem, put your problem, shake it up, and I'll be like, I think I have enough.
Yeah. You're like, where's my own problem back? Where is that thing, right?
That is really true. And it is a great way to look at it, because I think sometimes we think our problem is the worst thing out there, and that the world needs to so sympathize with us and everyone needs to feel sorry for us, but not really, because everyone has their own problem. And if they lend you an ear to listen to that problem, and if you lend your own ears to listen to that problem, then you realize that the world don't have problems, and it's best to just be appreciative with where you are and keep shining like a star. You always talk about making your first million. So many people with this pandemic, it's affected people in numerous ways, and the biggest impact is loss of jobs from the pandemic, or loss of earnings, so especially people who are in certain roles. They've just lost that hope. But you are a believer that it's possible to make your first million. What advice would you give to the young guys, anyone listening who's actually thinking, I need a new life, I need to make my first million? What advice would you give them in starting that strategy to be on that path of making their first millions?
I love that. I think the first piece of advice I would give people is that, listen, the new way of doing it is going to be way faster than the old way. You can do things today that we couldn't do 10, 15, 20 years ago. So you have to accept the fact that this is a new era. We're playing in a new era. It's like a football player today, the amount of money that they're making today, compared to the 80s, right? Here in Canada, we have hockey. There's people signing $100 million contracts in hockey. The greatest player in the history of hockey back in the 80s and 90s didn't make nearly as much as a mediocre player does today. So this is a new era. So stop looking around at what people used to do. Stop looking around at how far people have come already in their 20s and 30s. And this is not about what people used to do. This is about what's possible. With technology, the game has changed. You need to find something that you, first of all, you have to define what kind of a life you want to live. You're not going to accidentally fall into seven figures. You need to figure out, why do you want to make seven figures? Why is that important to you? Is it the contribution? Is it the growth? Is it the significance? Do you want to compete? Do you want to give it all away? And once you can tie yourself in emotionally to that, now you need to find your game. What's your game? How are you going to win? What are you going to do to earn that money? So everyone's focused on the money and then they want to live that life. I was focused on that life and then I found my game. And once you find your game, right, you need to find the right mentors. You have to hang around people that have done it. You're not going to make your first million by hanging around people that are focusing on making their first 50,000. You have to hang around people, right? Eagles fly with eagles. You start hanging out with ducks, you're going to start to quack. So if you want to be around people, if you want to build a seven-figure business, you need to find seven-figure mentors.
If you're going to hang around with dogs, you're going to start to quack.
Quack.
Oh gosh, Steve, that's wonderful. Our final question is that I'd love to ask you, what impact you think, you've been through it, you've had the health challenges, you've built successful businesses, you also mentor, the work you're doing is really, phenomenal. You're really making a great impact in the world right now. What impact would you love to leave, legacy would you love to leave in this world?
I appreciate the question, and I appreciate all these questions, but appreciate this question. The impact that I want to leave with people is I just want them to believe that it's possible. It's possible. No matter what you want or where you're at, it's possible. It's possible to get through that pain. It's possible to find that relationship. It's possible to earn that money. See, we live in a society now where, so many people lack belief. They lack belief in themselves. They lack belief in what's possible. Everybody just feels like this is who they're born to be. And, don't ask for too much. And when's enough? And I guess I'm just sick. I guess I just have cancer. I guess that's just the cards that I've been dealt. No, it's not. It's possible to live that life. It's possible to leave that legacy. And, you have to, at the end of my life, Ann, I want a whole bunch of people to say, you know what? Because I knew Steve, or because I was associated with Steve, I just believed a little bit more in myself. And if I could instill just a little bit more belief in everybody that I come in contact with, just the ripple effect that would have, I just think for me, that would be a powerful legacy that I could leave.
Well, that's amazing. Thank you so much, Steve Holbrook, for talking to me today. And I look forward to many more chats with yourself. Thank you so much for your time.
I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.